They say bigger is better. But what if it's just too much? Imagine a car so massive, so insanely luxurious, so over the top that it made people stop and stare. But at the same time, nearly destroyed the company that built it. This is not just a car. This is Cadillac Eldorado, America's wildest answer to European class and style. A car built with no limits, no budget, and no sense of enough. And guess what? People couldn't get enough of it. Until they did. Now, before we dive into this crazy story of chrome, power, and pure excess, I'm on a mission to hit 1,000 subscribers. And if you love wild car stories like this one, where luxury meets madness, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and buckle up. Because Cadillac didn't just make a car, they started a war. A war of size, style, and ego. Let's see how the most outrageous luxury car ever came to life, and almost took its creators down with it. Let's rewind to the 1950s, a time when America was booming. Money was flowing, highways were growing, and everyone wanted a piece of the American dream. And nothing screamed, "I've made it," louder than a massive, shiny car with more chrome than common sense. Back then, car dealerships were like theaters. Ford, Chrysler, General Motors, they weren't just selling cars, they were selling fantasies. Walk into a showroom and you'd be hit with rotating platforms, spotlights, and music, all to make you fall in love with something bigger, flashier, crazier than the car next door. Cadillac? Oh, they weren't playing games. They wanted to rule this world of excess. And so they did what any good American company would do. They reached for a legend. You've heard of Eldorado, right? The mythical city of gold? A place of endless riches and treasure? Well, Cadillac figured, why not make that into a car? A car so rich, so luxurious, that it would feel like driving gold itself. And that's how the idea of Eldorado was born. A car named after fantasy, built to make every other car look cheap. But this wasn't just about looks. Cadillac knew they had to shock people. They had to give America something it had never seen before. And oh boy, did they deliver. When the first Cadillac Eldorado hit the stage, people didn't just stare, they gasped. This wasn't just another fancy car. This was a statement. A monster dressed in white, dripping with chrome, and packed with features that seemed like they came straight out of science fiction. Let's start with the looks. Panoramic windshield? Yeah, Cadillac said. Why stick with boring straight glass like everyone else? Let's bend it, curve it, wrap it around so much that even traffic lights looked cooler from inside. While other cars had plain old A-pillars blocking your view, the Eldorado gave you a wide-open look at the world. And let's be honest, it made everything else on the road look ancient. And size? This thing wasn't just big, it was a floating palace. Over 5.5 meters long with enough room to stretch out like a king. Under the hood, a 5.4-liter V8 pumping out 210 horsepower, with an automatic transmission, of course. Because who wants to shift gears when you're cruising in pure style? Inside, it was all about luxury. Leather seats, electric windows, a high-end radio, power steering, white wall tires, wire-spoked wheels. This car had everything. But here's the catch. All that opulence came at a price. $7,750. Now, that might not sound insane today, but back in the early 50s, that was almost 30 times the average monthly salary. Think about that. This car cost more than most people's homes, and yet, for those who could afford it, it was worth every penny. The Eldorado wasn't just a car, it was a dream on wheels. And Cadillac didn't care if only a few hundred people could buy it. They wanted to make sure everyone else wished they could. But you know how it goes. When you're on top, someone's always coming for your crown. Cadillac thought they owned the luxury game, until Lincoln stepped in and said, "Oh, you think that's fancy? Watch this." Enter the Lincoln Continental Mark II. This car wasn't just luxurious, it was obscenely luxurious. Hand-built, V8 with 300 horsepower. Power everything. Windows, seats, steering. And get this, the leather inside? Imported from Scotland. Because apparently American cows just weren't good enough. Lincoln wasn't messing around. They made this car so over the top, it made Eldorado look almost reasonable. Price tag? $10,000. But don't get it twisted. That's not today's money. That was more than some people's entire life savings back then. At the time, you could buy a really nice house for that kind of cash. Or you could roll around in a car that made even the richest folks jealous. Cadillac saw the Mark II and went, challenge accepted. Because no way were they going to let Lincoln steal the spotlight. So what did they do? They unleashed the Eldorado Brougham. This wasn't just an answer. It was a declaration of war. 4 doors, no B-pillar, rear suicide doors, and every luxury feature Cadillac could dream up. Memory seats, a power trunk, heated seats, automatic high beams, and even, wait for it, a cosmetic kit for the ladies. Yep, inside every Eldorado Brougham you'd find perfume, lipstick, and a mirror, because Cadillac didn't just think about performance, they thought about style. And that price? A mind-blowing $13,000. That was more than 3 regular Cadillacs or 42 average American paychecks. This wasn't about making money. This was about making a point. Cadillac and Lincoln were locked in a game of luxury chicken. Who could go bigger, bolder, and badder no matter the cost? But here's the crazy part. Neither of them was winning. Now, if you thought things were already crazy, buckle up. Because in 1959, Cadillac said, let's stop pretending we're building cars. Let's build rockets for the road. The 1959 Eldorado wasn't just big, it was outrageous. First off, those fins. Not just fins, the biggest tail fins ever put on a production car. These things didn't just look like airplane wings, they could almost lift off. And the chrome? It wasn't just on the grille or bumpers, it was everywhere. If Cadillac could chrome it, they did. This wasn't subtle. This wasn't classy. This was loud, proud, and impossible to ignore. Under the hood, a 345 horsepower V8. 0 to 60 in just 10 seconds. And remember, this thing weighed over 2.3 tons. Not bad for what's basically a luxury yacht on wheels. But here's the deal. The Eldorado wasn't about speed. It was about presence. Rolling down the street in one of these, you didn't just drive, you ruled. Automatic transmission? Of course. Power everything? You bet. A ride so smooth, thanks to that soft suspension, it felt like gliding over the pavement. And the design? Pure madness, in the best way. Rocket tail lights, hidden rear wheels, a front end that looked like it was ready to devour the road. Cadillac wasn't just making cars anymore. They were building dreams, wrapped in chrome and powered by V8 thunder. But Cadillac wasn't done blowing minds. They didn't just want the Eldorado to look insane. They wanted it to be a technological flex like no other. Let's talk power. A 345 horsepower V8, that was nice. For starters. But Cadillac engineers, they wanted more. So what did they dream up? A V12 engine. Yeah, you heard that right. A 7.4-liter monster and even a prototype at 8.2 liters, pushing nearly 400 horsepower and 500 lb-ft of torque. And this was the late 50s. This thing was ready to rip the pavement apart, but reality hit hard. Emissions laws, insane costs, and space issues killed the V12 dream. But Eldorado didn't need a V12 to flex. Because this car was already filled to the brim with gadgets that made people's jaws drop. You stepped inside and immediately felt like you were in the future. The seats didn't just move, They remembered exactly where you wanted them and adjusted like magic. Opening the trunk? You didn't have to lift a finger. It opened itself. Even the headlights knew when to dim, switching from high beams without you even noticing. And yeah, if you wanted to feel warm and cozy, the seats were heated. In the 1950s, everywhere you looked, there was something extra. The floor wasn't just carpeted, it was covered in soft sheepskin. The radio? It didn't just play music, it had a motorized antenna that rose like a tower. And for the ladies? Cadillac included a custom vanity kit, complete with perfume, lipstick, a mirror, and even a gold comb. They thought of everything. Cadillac didn't just want you to drive in comfort, they wanted you to live in luxury. This wasn't a car, it was a rolling 5-star suite. And honestly, no one else was doing it like this. Cadillac was years ahead, throwing every possible feature into Eldorado just to say, we're better, and we know it. And just when you thought things couldn't get crazier, Eldorado became the ultimate canvas for people who wanted to take luxury and go completely off the rails. Standard opulence? Please. Some owners and custom shops looked at Eldorado and said, let's make it even more insane. Boom! A 6-wheeled Eldorado beast was born. And that was just the start. The 70s were the golden age of wild custom builds, and nothing was off limits. A guy named Jay Orberg looked at 2 Eldorados and had a crazy idea. What if I build the longest car in the world? So he bought 2 of them, welded them together, stretched the whole thing out, and ended up with a 100-foot-long monster. It had 2 engines, one in the front, one near the back. And get this, it needed 2 drivers to control it. All the axles turned just so this thing could attempt to go around corners. And the inside? Oh man, this wasn't just a car anymore. It was a circus on wheels. Leather couches, TVs, a giant bed, a tanning salon, a jacuzzi with a diving board, a golf putting green, and yes, even a helipad. Because why not? This wasn't meant for the road. It had to be transported in pieces because there was no way it could navigate normal streets. But it didn't matter. This rolling absurdity made it into the Guinness World Records as the longest car ever built. Ridiculous? Absolutely. But this was peak Eldorado. A car that didn't know the meaning of too much. But here's the thing about going all out. Sometimes it costs more than it's worth. See, while Cadillac was pushing the limits of style and Lincoln was firing back with their own luxury monsters, both companies were bleeding money. Let's break it down. Every time Lincoln sold a Continental Mark II, they lost around $1,000. Sounds bad, right? Well, Cadillac? They weren't just losing money, they were getting wrecked. Rumor has it, they lost up to $10,000 per Eldorado Brougham. That's not just bad business, that's corporate suicide. They didn't care at first. It was all about being number one. Beat the competition, dominate the luxury market. But eventually, someone had to look at the books and say, yeah, this isn't working. Both brands realized they couldn't keep up this arms race forever. Selling ultra-luxury cars at a loss just to look better? It wasn't sustainable. So slowly, they started to pull back. The insane, overbuilt, overpriced models faded away. Not because people didn't love them, but because the companies just couldn't afford to keep the fantasy alive. The dream was beautiful, but the price of perfection? It was too high. So what was it all for? The insane chrome, the rocket fins, the monster engines, the 6-figure losses per car? Was it worth it? Honestly? Yeah. Because Eldorado wasn't just about profit. It was about pushing boundaries, about showing the world that America could build cars that were bigger, bolder, and crazier than anything Europe had to offer. Sure, the money didn't make sense, but the legacy? Unmatched. Eldorado proved that luxury isn't just about comfort. It's about making a statement, and Cadillac made theirs loud and clear. Even today, you can't look at an Eldorado without feeling something. It's not just a car. It's a symbol of a time when more really was more. When automakers weren't afraid to go too far, just to see if they could. But what do you think? Was Eldorado a masterpiece of design and ambition, or just a wild ride that crashed too hard? Let me know in the comments. I'm dying to hear your take. And hey, if you loved this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss another crazy car tale. Because here, we don't just talk about cars, we live them. See you in the next one.